We are broadcasting live to you from the Massachusetts Beer Review Thomas Metal 75 channel of YouTube. I am Massachusetts Beer Reviews. We have a large panel of people that usually show up on the Louisiana Beer Reviews Wednesday night examinations. I am your host today, as Jay is going to be at a collegiate basketball game. We are looking at, due to a little bit of confusion, we're still going to do it tonight here, we got the 211 Steel Reserve. Now, this one is a malt liquor. It's a high-gravity one. In Massachusetts, we get an 8.1% alcohol by volume. Some folks may be reviewing this beer at 6.0%. Does anybody have a 6.0 version?
Here in California, it's 6.1.
All right. So California is got the 6.0, and a lot of us have
8.1. 8.1.
Oh, 8.1. Good. Gotcha. So we all have this 8.1%.
I have a 6% there.
And Jeff Brister in Mississippi's got 6.0%. Yeah, very
I have
interesting.
8.
And now a lot of these, this is owned by the Miller Company. They say on the can and on the bottle, which I find kind of highly strange here, extra malted barley and select hops for extra gravity, slow brewed for exceptionally smooth flavor. Well, I remember 5 years ago not thinking this thing was very smooth, but we're gonna find out again right now. Information I can quickly give you is, it says on the MillerCoors.com site, this was introduced in 1998. Steel Reserve is a leading high-gravity lager brand. The packaging features the vertical 211 logo representing the medieval symbol for steel. Steel Reserve is slow brewed. Yeah, we said that. And it's 222 calories per 8-ounce serving. Exceptionally smooth flavor. Well, I remember 5 years ago not thinking this thing was crazy. All right. Now, again, right now. Information I can get. What is everybody getting out of their pour of this exceptionally smooth lager?
I got about a 2-finger head as soon as I poured it, but it went away about like a Coke.
Exactly. Anybody else got an opinion on that? I basically just see a super clear, pale, golden appearance with a ultra fluffy, soapy-looking type of a head. 2 fingers.
Got a lot of carbonation in it.
Yeah. Lots of it.
But can we just make the general assumption that it just looks like a standardized American lager?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Why not?
Basically.
And what are we getting out of the A and aroma of our beer?
Kind of sweet on my end.
Yeah.
Sweet and grainy.
I mean, once again, this stereotypical malt liquor and American adjunct lager for sure in the smell. You can tell that there's the adjuncts in this beer, no doubt about that. And I do find that as opposed to stuff like Budweiser and Miller Lite and maybe even something like the Coors Banquet, it's got a really big sweetness involved in the aroma.
How y'all doing this evening? Good evening. Good evening.
Hello, John in Alabama.
What's up, John?
Hello.
Nice.
All right, I'm gonna go right into that taste test. I'm dying to see what I think 5 years later. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We will do in a second for the tasting. John.
Want to play it right over here? This one?
I'll tell you what, Eric. It tastes like that GMO corn.
It is very sweet. It is extremely sweet. That is the primary flavor I'm pulling out of this beverage. I don't know what anybody else has to think about that at the moment, but chime in whenever.
Man, it almost tastes. It tastes almost a little bit of a fruity taste to it. Maybe that's part of the sweetness, though. I can't place my finger on exactly what kind of fruit it would be. Just kind of, I guess, overwhelmingly sweet aftertaste, kind of.
Right. Yeah.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. I mean that sweetness is almost cloying in nature, where it's borderline, and maybe it is to a certain extent. It's almost too much sweetness, but I have to figure that sweetness is in there because of this big alcohol percentage that's in the beer. I figure that's what's giving it that sweet flavor, is that alcohol percentage. Or does anybody else have an opinion on that?
It is a sweet beer. Definitely. I wouldn't. It has that slightly cloying taste to it. We did the Hurricane High Gravity a couple nights ago, but this beer does not have, thanks to its sweetness, it doesn't have that harsh alcohol taste that, say, a Hurricane High Gravity does. So, and that with 8.1% still reserve, that's already superior to the Hurricane High Gravity, in my opinion. But it has its own drawbacks. It's just so heavy, so sweet. But I would prefer this over the Hurricane myself.
Yeah. Nate and I in Massachusetts could not find that Hurricane. We can't even find just normal everyday average Hurricane. But we could not find the Hurricane High Gravity Lager to compare this to. But I have to say, unless anybody else wants to, chime in on this one here, I don't seem to think that there's, at 8.1%, I'm not really noticing a warming or a burn or any kind of a detectable presence that it's all of that alcohol percentage in the beer.
Yeah.
It seems pretty smooth. It's just, to me, very, very grainy and extremely sweet.
I hope it don't have the bad GMO corn that they keep on talking about beers you shouldn't drink with GMO corn.
Well, as far as I'm understanding from, you can search for that on Google. All beers you should not drink and why. A lot of the Miller beers are on that list just because of what John was saying. GMO corn syrup. Don't drink this beer. I mean, now that you mentioned that, it does have a pretty good, corny, grainy, syrupy, sweet kind of a taste as well to it.
I'm sorry, guys. With Hurricane, I noticed that it's a little more sweeter than Steel Reserve to me when we tried it the other night. I thought, but again, both of them are 8%. Well, the one I get here in Alabama is 8%, and I guess I'm aware of other parts of the country. But as far as availability, I think Steel's pretty much everywhere. At least I thought.
Yeah, this has to be one of the more popular brands when it comes to the malt liquor 40s. I would have to think that, and this is one of those 40s ounce beers that I actually can successfully say I can also get in a 24-ounce can. I mean, there are some that I wish I could get in a 24-ounce can that I can't get. Get in a 40, and sometimes you just don't want to drink a whole 40, and even if you pop a 40 open and you want to save it for later, it's gonna get flat later, and that just is ruining the beer. I don't know anybody else. That.
We can get we can't get it in a 40 right here, but we can get it in the 24 to 12 ounce can right here. So
I think I'm thinking the same thing I did 5 years ago. Now drinking this beer today, I just find that. Well, when I turned 21 and I tried this, it wasn't when I turned 21, but when I was 21 and I tried this, I just remember thinking, this just tastes like bromated melted butter, and I'm still thinking it's got a little bit of that sickly, buttery, sugary sweetness kind of a thing going on. It's kind of one of those things. I think they call that in the beer world. I think they call that a diacetyl flavor, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since I think I'm the only person who's drinking the 6% variety, unless I'm mistaken.
I think you might be the only one.
If you ever get a chance to try the 6%, better tasting, in my opinion, than the 8.1%. It's not nearly as offensive. It kind of tastes more like a Mickey's, if you've had Mickey's before.
yeah.
To me, the 6% Steel Reserve tastes a lot like Mickey's.
I could probably see that.
I I'm not finding. I mean, for as smooth as this beer pretty much is, I mean, you gotta get past the sweetness.
Yeah.
Smooth in flavor, but for as smooth as the flavor is, I find. I don't know how carbonated everybody else's, beers look here in their glasses, but I find
Oh
that it's
yeah, it's
almost.
good.
I find that Steel
Very
Reserve
carbonated.
is almost a little bit too heavy in the carbonation to be something that I could easily, chug back at parties very, very easily because I just took a big gulp of it and that sort of hurt a little bit going down with some of that carbonation. So it's not good for huge sipping and gulping, I don't think, even though it's probably designed to be that way.
We're just getting
Right.
old.
Exactly. So since I know,
Now,
go ahead, chime in.
well, I was gonna say with Steel, Miller, and I was looking at it. They really took a lot of time in really making this, particularly the 8%, very, correct. It's not something they just put and say, here it is. This is, again, I was telling Brandon this and even Jay this the other day that, you see a lot of guys who like craft beer buying this. At times I know a couple of guys who like craft beer, and they say, and I'll see them carrying a case of this, and it's like, I'm shocked, and because the image of the view of people who have this, but they who drink it, who say, this can go pretty decently, the 8% than the 6% with with some of these other craft beers,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, go toe to toe. I meant to say, compare.
Absolutely. I personally, I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm just curious what everybody's experience is with the Steel Reserve. If they've had that before, if they have any, if when they started, exploring and experiencing the idea of malt liquor and of high gravity lagers, what everybody's, preconceived conceptions were of the beer, of this beer and that style, what they thought about going into this beer the first time they ever tried it, and what they really have to say about it looking at the beer today now.
Well, I'm looking at this beer. I think this is the first time I've ever had a Steel Reserve. I'm not going to say it's going to be the last time I'm going to have Steel Reserve, but I don't think it's as good of a gravity beer as others we've tried throughout the last few months. But maybe I'll give it another shot one day. Maybe I'd like to try the 6%. But overall, I mean, I'd give it a C for what it is.
I think it's one of those that the more you drink of it, the better it's going to get, just because it's going to knock you out. It's kind of, to me, the sweetness is okay, but the finish is a little harsh. It's not really my kind of thing, but
yeah, I kind of noticed. I kind of noticed that. I think this one might be a little bit harsher, but I kind of noticed that some of these high gravity lagers and the ice beers kind of have that same really weird, grainy, dry, almost sour to a point, kind of a finishing aspect to the beer. Kind of noticed they all sort of have a really weird, grainy, musky thing going on at the end.
I think it's one of those beers that you just got to drink it almost to the point of being frozen. You got to drink it real cold because it warms up. I mean, it's
Yeah, you gotta drink it stuff quick, man.
it's
Gotta be cold.
it almost kind of gets that Corona skunky type taste to it.
Exactly. So, yeah, my question is: Has anybody had the Steel Reserve before? And if they have not had the Steel Reserve before, what were they expecting maybe going into a beer like this?
Well, the first time for me when I had Steel Reserve, and this is going back 2002, I thought this thing was the most worst thing I ever had. That was back then. At that time I was drinking Bud and Keystone and those type of beers. When I got this, now as years have gone on, I'm starting to embrace it, a lot more. And it's just one of those things that you first is like, okay, let me just get used to it, but through time, you get comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Let me call out somebody's name here. Eric Anderson. Hello. How you doing in California? What is your experience with the malt liquors in California, and in your own personal experience of having malt liquors in your lifetime?
Well, I've had quite many varieties of malt liquor. It's all like this to me. I couldn't even drink a lot. Like I love Doppelbocks. Like to
Absolutely.
me, that is fantastic. But I can only drink like one or two because it's so sweet. It's too.
Yeah.
I love them, but I'm gonna drink that. I'm gonna drink some other beers, and I'm gonna mix it up. I'm not gonna just drink that. I can't imagine drinking like even a whole 40 of this stuff because it's just so cloyingly sweet. It's just. It almost tastes a little stale. It tastes like someone poured like alcohol in there. It's just not. It's not really. I can't. I just can't. I couldn't.
I have to agree to a certain extent on that one. Absolutely. Let me call out somebody else's name here. Nate, what is your final thoughts, opinions, impressions of a Not Right Now?
Well, we were talking about the alcohol effect of it earlier, and I want to point out my usual test for it, especially after a unique experience in college of not tasting the vodka. I invented kind of like some kind of test called the stand-up test. So I just want to do the standing test right now and just test it.
Oh, so you're saying that this is a pretty powerful beer as far as you're concerned?
Well, so it doesn't taste like it, and it doesn't really feel like it if you're sitting down. But as soon as you stand up, you realize that you've just had an 8.1% beer. And
absolutely. What would you? I mean, if you had to, however you wanna, give me your verdict and rating of this beer, how would you go about giving a rating of this beer and why?
I kind of, you know what? I didn't really like it when we did what's it? The last one we did.
I think we might have done the Old English as our last malt liquor.
Well, the Old English 800 I didn't mind as much. There was one in the middle that we did.
Go ahead.
Was it King Cobra? I think
we did King Cobra at one point in time. That's right.
That might have been it. I would go Old English 800, King Cobra, and this. Or actually, no, sorry, this would be before King Cobra.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's above that.
Chime in.
I think Old English is a lot better than this. I could actually drink an Old English 40 and enjoy it. This is just that sweetness is just too much.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm gonna make a little statement here, and not because nobody else I think likes other styles of beers, but anybody else can jump in on this one. I'm gonna pose this one to Brandon because I haven't gotten to him yet. I think Eric is absolutely correct where at least to my taste palate, where this is almost cloyingly sweet, but there are a lot of different beer styles, even in the craft beer world, that have a lot of sweetness to them.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I was just saying, Doppelbocks. I love a good Doppelbock. Like a Spaten Doppelbock is fantastic. I love that beer, but I can't. I can only drink one, and even that one is like 8% as well, and that will get you pretty faded as well. But I have
absolutely
something else afterwards.
The styles
I really like. It's that sweet. I couldn't drink that much.
Yeah, the styles I'm thinking of right here off the top of my head are, things like barley wines and imperial stouts, and maybe even like Belgian quads. I don't know if Brandon maybe want to chime in here, but like I was saying,
I do.
Those beers have a lot of sweet characters to them, but they don't, to you, those kind of styles don't seem so cloyingly sweet as this, right?
Oh yeah.
It depends. With some of these styles, especially with some of the imperial stouts, once you start getting above 10%, you start approaching 12% ABV. Like you really they start getting almost too sweet unless you just use a ton of hops. I don't remember. I tried the root stout, the first edition of it, and my impression of it was very sweet. That beer,
Right.
A double bock can also be sweet. Of course, in Germany, they also be very bitter because they're fresh over there, so they're going to have more of the hops in those beers. So, of course, it depends on the house variety of double bock. But a beer like this, I mean, with a malt liquor, it can be either cloyingly sweet or it can be dry, like say a King Cobra can have more of a dry finish. This one does not have a dry finish. Hurricane was a little drier than this. It all comes down to your preference, but the 8.1 Steel Reserve is pretty heavy. This is a tough 40 to get through, by the way.
Yeah, I'm tending to think that. Yeah, I'm trying to remember on the beer advocate, this beer might have gotten by me like a 2.15, maybe out of 5, and I think I'm gonna. I don't want to be my own worst critic here, so I think I'm pretty much along the same lines there. I could not recommend this beer to my worst enemy, although I'd recommend anybody that it really wants to try malt liquor for the first time, or really easily accessible malt liquor that is easy in drinking, easy in the palate, and easy in the mouthfeel that anybody in the United States of America can probably get. And we already named it earlier, is the Old English 800. I don't know that I ever have seen Old English 800 high gravity in my area, but just the standard
Mississippi. You can get it in Mississippi. I got it in Mississippi. I bought 2 bottles. Thankfully, when I dropped my mom and my sister off at the airport, I said, you know what, let me pull up someplace. And there it was. And I said, well, oh, man, let me get 2 of these.
That would be very interesting to try. But I think Old English is the traditional Old English 800 is 5.9%, which could have something to do with the drinkability. But I find that to be a lot smoother and more pleasant tasting, and I think
I would agree with that. Agree with that.
That's easy for you to pound right there, that OE 800 of the original strength.
Yeah, I can pound this in a 40 pretty easily.
I'm working on it. Because you think you can, you have a 24-ounce can, or if you split a 24-ounce can, but once you get about halfway through the 8.1, it starts to get a little rough.
Yeah.
Well,
especially on a full
stand-up test,
stomach.
man. Stand-up test.
Unfortunately, guys in Alabama, and Brandon, he lives in Mississippi, I can't get the plastic bottles here, and it's kind of sucks, but, and I like those plastic bottles because basically you could have a little bit here, put it away, save it for later, have a little bit there, save it for the next day, that's what I like about these plastic bottles, but, oh well.
I ain't saving nothing. I'm going to do it one night. Hey, Brewster, I gotta give you a big thumbs up, buddy, because I'm doing the mug tonight. I watched your PBR video of you doing the mug.
Oh man.
Yeah, I like mugs. Mugs are good for just about any beer you want.
Agreed. That's what I like about a liter mug as well. That way I can say, "Oh no, I just had 3 beers."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna fit all in one glass. Or in a big old mug.
Hey guys, what would you pair this with? I thought maybe something hot and spicy, Mexican food, barbecue.
That sounds great. That sounds good about
I
it.
pair it with some chicken.
There you go. No, my personal pairing for this beer, I would say good rack of ribs, maybe some brisket or something like that. I mean, or hell, even just hamburgers and hot dogs. Works just fine. Yeah, she's getting a call over there.
Yeah, call.
Skype.
Is that Eric? Okay.
Yep.
So.
What the fuck?
But
Gone rogue.
I think
Our moderator.
I think this beer would pair real well with a bologna and cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fried bologna.
Yes, exactly. Fried bologna.
Grilled cheese and bologna.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's definitely something like, just fries, wings.
And guys, let me ask y'all a question.
Something salty. You don't care what you're taking at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you.
It goes down quick.
Yo,
There he is.
I don't know who's watching the pornography on my internet connection, but it's really wacky right now.
Xfinity got you, man.
Not getting into this.
You see, this beer is like pornography. You think it's a good idea, looking at it on the surface. Yeah, I want to get into this, and the more you look at it, it's just like, this is kind of weird. This is kind of strange. I don't know if I accept this anymore. That's what I'm getting from Steel Reserve.
Hey, but you know, Eric, it's like we talked about today. Is we need to try the variants of these.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a good point there. When we go back live next Wednesday with Louisiana Beer Reviews with Jay, I think we're gonna try to do
Steel Reserve.
the Steel Reserve as a line of beers. You can bring this beer again. You can bring the 6.0% version. You can bring the Alloy series, which have the fruit flavor.
Oh boy.
We'll just talk about Steel Reserve, the brand. But
because they make like what 3 or 4 different variants of this, right?
yeah, they have Steel Reserve. I think there might be. I don't know if there's high gravity version.
There's a raspberry flavor. There's
pineapple,
right.
Blackberry, and
raspberry,
and margarita. Yeah, there's a margarita Steel Reserve, and all those variants from what they call the Alloy series are 8.1%, just like the beer that most of us are drinking today. So,
what they
Steel Reserve? You know, I've never seen anything else. But what we used to do, people around, they used to take. Remember Four Loko? They would take like a Steel Reserve, drink down the Four Loko, they combine it in the 40. You know.
Call that a hangover.
It's horrible.
What?
Horrible. The worst thing you could ever drink in your life.
horrible, horrible. Four Loko, horrible.
So
I never had a 4 Loko. Probably.
It's only Four Loko.
Yeah, the
This guy
variant.
makes me want to go out and get a 4 Loko and another Steel Reserve.
Yeah, through that. Yeah, the variant.
Cuvée. We're going Cuvée, Steel Reserve, and a Loco.
Yeah,
I'm gonna Randall it with some gummy worms and some Centennial hops.
You might as well be, drinking vodka infused sodas at that point.
It's like cough syrup. Terrible.
Yeah, basically, you're right.
Hey,
I've never had Four Loko and never have had the desire to drink it. Although next week will probably make me drink a spiked punch. That's the other one. Probably the spiked punch Steel Reserve next week. That can't be any. It's got to be better than this, I should say, right? Come on. Maybe.
Hey,
Never had that stuff.
now the reason that Steel put out these flavored flavored flavors, whatever of their beer, was it to compete with Budweiser and their Limeritas and all that they have out right now?
I don't know. My general.
Because them come out before those.
Yeah, my general thought process is they gotta be. I think they like I say, they're from what's known as the Alloy series. So they have those fruit flavored Steel Reserves in the Alloy series, and I have to imagine, and they all come in the same size and style can as Four Loko. So I gotta imagine that they're trying to compete with Four Loko, even though Four Loko is 12 and this is in the 8% range. But I gotta imagine it's Four Loko, because they have so many different variants of flavors in the Four Loko line.
Now, I did have an opportunity.
Tons of Four Lokos.
Go ahead, John.
I did have the opportunity the other day to try the new Bud Light Trail Mix series. Is that what it was called? I believe.
Trail Mix. Not familiar with that one.
Oh, okay. They got one called a Fireball. It's
wow.
Well,
So it's supposed to taste like Fireball whiskey or something?
No, it's like a Fireball type beer. I mean, it was actually.
We're gonna go drop the movie off and we're coming right back.
It's called Mixtail. That's what it was.
Sleepy?
It was kind of like a Budweiser hits a Fireball shot.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. What percentage? What ABV was that?
8%.
So, actually, that brings up a good point here, because you get stuff like, I think the Budweiser, the Bud Light Platinum is 6%. I think Beck Sapphire is 6%. I believe the Budweiser Black Crown is 6%. So you see that all those beers are kind of like just standard non-high gravity versions of malt liquors without calling them malt liquors. And now you named that Trail Mix beer, and we got Steel Reserve here, and then the Steel Reserve Alloy series. Those are all 8.1.
I think this is actually called a malt beverage.
I really think, and I don't really know if it's in a good way or if it's in a bad way. I don't know if anybody has an opinion on that, but maybe maybe they're trying to get the Miller brand here that owns and puts out Steel Reserve. Maybe they're trying to get not into the hands of underage kids. That's not what I'm saying, but they're trying to get this kind of a beer style, to be more acceptable to the masses than just, oh, look, it says high gravity lager and it's a malt liquor. Well, that's what hobos drink. I'm not going to drink it.
I really don't know many people that aren't hobos that drink this beer, to be honest. Honestly, everyone I know who drinks this beer is alcoholic.
I drink this beer.
Alcoholic, and they drink it to get drunk and because it's like $1.25. That's why.
Yeah. And I agree with what Eric just said. It's like, if I don't like liquor or alcohol, and when I go in, I can buy 2 24 ounces for $3 with tax, or I can get me a pint of clear grain. I'm going to go for the beer if I don't like liquor.
Yeah, I'd personally be better off spending, what is it, $12 or $13 getting a 4-pack of Sierra Nevada Bigfoot barley wine, but that's for a different class. That's what I'm trying to say. That's for a different kind of person.
Drinkability for one is different than drinkability for another.
Even if I was at that class, even if I was homeless, I'd still probably be drinking Old English. You know what I mean? I'd still be drinking something else than this.
It's got to be a little bit of maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just not with the college crowd anymore. Whoops. But I got to think in my own brain. It's in my own thought process. It's got to be, it's got to be the value, which is the quality of the product for the price point that you're getting it at. So for $1.59 for Steel Reserve, I would probably be happier drinking another liquor product or another malt liquor than the Steel Reserve, but that's just me personally.
Hey, but if you had to stand by the viaduct all day and collect change and all you got's a couple bucks,
this would be a good way to get you.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the way I went into beer drinking, thinking that everybody talks about this beer being some wicked dastardly thing. Like if you want to get to the party now, you drink this beer now. I'm like, okay, let me try that, and it worked. So I can't say that this beer isn't one.
I mean, if you're judging the style of this beer and that's all you're judging the style of this beer, this is not a bad beer.
It's not. It's not a bad beer at all. It's very good.
I mean, you got to give kudos where kudos are given. I mean,
yeah,
for what it is.
And if you look at from back in the day, guys, I mean, remember Country Club when it came out? The history, even Schlitz. What were some of the advertisements? The nice guy, the well-to-do guy sitting at home by the Christmas tree. Having a Schlitz malt liquor or a Country Club and enjoying the time with his family. And I think people look at that now with the image of people look at malt liquor as being negative or it's killing communities, particularly the minority communities, and it's not. It's just good beer. Yes, it's cheap, but it's a good quality beer.
Exactly, you're right.
What you were saying there, John. Is absolutely is correct, and it reminds me of what we were talking about with Jay from Louisiana Beer Reviews could have been a month or two ago when we were doing one of these malt liquor reviews. It could have been even John Sharon that said it. I don't remember who said it precisely. Forgive me there, but these kind of beers at one point in time when in America what we were brewing was just the Budweiser and the Schlitz and the Schaefer beer kind of styles, what you think of as stereotypical beer styles. I mean, when we started when beer companies like Country Club, as John was saying, came out, those were considered more of a crafty. I mean, craftier as in this was what was considered a different taste profile and a different drinking experience when it came to beer than what everybody was normally, accepted as this is what beer is. But this is which is a little bit different, a little bit craftier, and it really, this kind of a beer style, whether it seems that way or not in what we're drinking today, but it really was a craftier style of a beer that paved the way for a lot of other beer styles to be able to be, acceptable. As in one day, as in at one point in time, people weren't really sure about it, but as people started drinking it, they said, "Wait a minute, there might be something here. Let's try it and let's give it a fair chance."
But and you're right, and I did bring that up, and you brought up a good point when you re-brung this up. I think people need to take a look at where some of these beers come from, and not only where they come from, but the affordability of what some people can afford. I mean, I personally think one day craft beer is going to frickin' market itself out of overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
But
Very true. Very true,
talking
John.
about a beer that's a couple dollars that is an enjoyable beer to some, yes, some no. I mean, you can sit here and say 25 good things and 25 bad things, but you're going to say that about a craft beer too. I mean, $2 to $20. I mean, for a 24 ounce or a bomber. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to outweigh the pros and the cons of what you're getting.
Exactly. That I would exactly agree with that statement.
And we've spent $20 for a bomber of beer, and it'd be much worse than what we just had.
Yeah.
Going into a big, you're right there, and I've said it before on the J Wednesday nights. I mean, you look at a beer like Steel Reserve, which is getting a lot more crap than it probably really deserves, but it is still cloyingly sweet as hell, might I say on that one. Going into a beer bomber, if all you do is watch us on Jay's channel, Losing Beer Reviews, and on my channel, God bless you, but if all you do is watch our channels and watch other people's channels on YouTube and read reviews on Beer Advocate and rate beer, and you hear, say, trying to think of a beer here, and you hear, say, Great Divide's Oak-Aged Yeti Imperial Stout is the greatest beer of all time. You need to try that now. And you find it at your store for $14, and you've never tried it before. It's very obvious. It's very understandable that you would be apprehensive spending that much money on one bomber of beer without even having it before. And you don't even know if, in the end of the day after trying that beer and opening it, if that's going to turn into a bad decision or not. You would hope it's not, but you're going off of the good faith of the internet telling you it is a good beer.
But you brought up a good point there. $14 for a beer, but and I was thinking, I think too much. I think sometimes about beer, but I think sometimes we
like $6.40 for that much.
We forget about where we come from on our local taverns or our local saloons and drinking the macro beers and eating the cheap food and paying more attention towards the $14 beers than we do the $2 beers. And I don't think a lot of times we're showing support where support's due.
Absolutely, I really think to not make this. I mean, we will continue this discussion off air. We certainly shall. I think that is, as John was saying it, I think that's a perfect way to end our little discussion on some Steel Reserve tonight. I give it, like I say, a C to C, a C minus to C range. It's okay. I'm probably never buying this beer again, but it's an okay beer.
I give it a B. It's okay. Like I said, Hurricane's a little bit better, but I give it a B. Like I said, something if you want to. Again, I'm more about food pairings, whatever. If I'm gonna fry some fish, I'll drink this or Hurricane or whatever. If I'm having me some wings or whatever, or let's just say, but if an everyday beer, give me Bud Ice, give me Milwaukee's Best, and I'm happy.
I'm going to be in an area here in a few weeks where I get some Hurricane, and I'm going to pick up 2 or 3 bottles of it. And if anybody'd like to redo a review on this beer, I mean, just let me know. And we'll I'll get it something set up.
Awesome. Jeff Brister, thoughts, comments, concerns of beer? Guys?
Try the 6% if you can. Way better than the 8.1%.
I
promise
believe you somehow.
I believe
Nate, go. Thoughts, comments?
I would have to believe. I mean, I can't get the 6.1%, but the 6%, but that would be definitely better, probably, than the 8%.
What would your rating be?
I mean, I'm somewhere between you and John about it. I'd maybe a C+ about it. I mean, there's nothing really totally offensive about it. It's just kind of like run of the mill.
Sure. I know we've heard it before, but final thoughts and comments and grading. Eric Anderson from Ojai, California.
I just can't even give it a C. It's just I can't. It's just too. It's too much. It's too much. I can't do it. I mean, there's just so many beers. Even at that price point, even at that, I mean, well, Steel is the cheapest, but in that general range, there's better choices.
Well, you guys out there drink some St. Ides malt liquor, man. Woo!
If I'm gonna give it 2 grades. I'm gonna grade it in its class, in its unique class and style, in its price range. And I'm gonna give it a B plus to an A minus. But overall, I'm gonna give it a C minus.
Excellent. So this just goes to show you that we can have this large of a panel of participants, and we can all think slightly similar things, and we can all slightly differ about what we think about the beer, and it's all our own thoughts, opinions, and comments as far as this beer is concerned. But we all think that this is at least an average to an above average beer for sure. I can say that to you all.
But you got to look at it like this, though, Eric. I mean, we're a group of guys that's sitting here. We're not judging a beer. We're judging a beer on the style of the beer. I mean, and we're judging the beer for what it is, not because it's a Miller Coors or a Bud Light or.
Well, nobody told you to judge it a certain way, which is.
We're judging it for what it is, and for what it is, I think overall the whole group's given basically a C+.
I would. It is carbonated as hell. I would agree with that statement. And as I close out all of these reviews I do on the Massachusetts Beer Reviews, I say this. Until next time, keep tasting them great beers. We'll see you soon. Cheers and prost to you all. I drink slow. I am sorry. Cheers!
Cheers.